GameMaster Tips number 26. You feeling lucky, punk? Hey, what's up, choombas? This episode of GameMaster Tips is all about luck. Now, before I get into it, and this is going to be a two-parter. I'm going to discuss basically two different ways that I use luck a little bit outside of rules as written, a little expansion, a little homebrew aspect. But before I get into that and explain all that, how luck is used in my two different part methods or whatever, let me first explain that this entire GM Tips series, although very heavily based on Cyberpunk Red, can be used for any game system. There's lots of game systems that use luck, as well as in my other episodes, different aspects that I go over, are used in multiple genres, games, and systems. And even if not, I'm sure you can find a little bit of influence, a little bit of something that you can take away from these GM Tips episodes to use in whatever system you are using. So let's get into it. As far as luck in Cyberpunk Red, it's typically a way to kind of shift the dice outcome in your favor. So anytime you do a skill check or something, you can use your luck stat, you can use those points in your luck stat to add to that skill check. You add it to that dice outcome, right? So it depletes that amount. So whatever you have in that stat, let's say when you build your character, you have a luck stat of 5 and you use a couple points on that skill check, a point on that skill check, and then a couple more points on that skill check. Now you have no more luck for that session. That's how it works. But it adds to those checks and kind of gives you a little benefit in that way. And then by the next session, you replenish that luck stat back up to full so you can use it again. Unless the GM has their own kind of method. Some GMs I know only like to reset luck at the end of a full campaign, not every session, or after a full day in game time, like in character mode, you know what I mean? So that's up to the GM. But ultimately, that's how luck works in Cyberpunk Red, rules as written. Now, the way that I use it, like I said, is going to be a two-parter. Let's go over the first little addition way I use it. Obviously, I use it in the traditional sense of being able to add it to skill checks and things like that to help the characters and the player and their outcomes. But the other way that I use it here is in decision making. So just generally speaking, as a stat for a player's character, I use it in decision making on the GM's part. As influence to what the character is doing, like the outcome in whatever they need. So if it's not a typical skill check, like if, let me give some examples here. Like if a character, say they are going to enter a shop, a bodega, or check a vending machine, or call a fixer like an NPC, or enter a night market and kind of scan the booths. And they want to know if a particular item is in stock at the bodega or in the vended or available from that NPC fixer or at one of the booths in this night market. There's not a typical skill check that you do for that, like maybe a perception to kind of see how perceptive they are to see, but to come up with that end result, to find out, is that item available? Is it in stock? Can the fixer get it at this point? Is it at that night market? That's where I use luck in a little bit of decision making. So I'll just do a general stat check. I'll have the player roll a 1d10, and then as long as it's under their luck stat, they were lucky enough to find that item. It was in stock, They were lucky enough to get the end result that they were hoping for. And you always want it to be under the luck stat, not matching the luck stat or under, because of the fact that, let's say they have a luck of 10. Well, if it's matching that or lower, it's always going to be available to them. So you always want it, when you do these types of like stat checks, you always want it to be below the stat check. That way, if they have a 10, there's at least that 1 in 10 chance that it's not available or doesn't end up in their favor. There's always got to be at least that slight chance, right? So that's the first way I use luck, is as a general stat check in decision making. The second way that I use it is pretty much in the same way as rules as written describe, in the sense that you can use that luck stat to alter a dice outcome in a skill check, to benefit you in the player's favor, right? So, like, let's say they have to do, again, a perception check or something. Let's just go with that right now. And they want to make sure that they succeed on this. They know they're trying to, scour this crowd and find a particular NPC or enemy, or they're looking through something, whatever it is. So they decide, okay, cool, I've got my my main stat, my main skill, perception, I'm adding that, I'm doing my D10. I want to use, 2 of my luck points to benefit this. I have a luck of 5, and I want to use 2 of those points to benefit this check. That's how you normally use it. Now, when I do a PostRoll Edition, which is the second part of how I use luck of this video. It's basically able to add luck after the fact at double the cost. So that's a little bit of homebrew there. So let's say a player doesn't use luck. They really want to pass this check. They only have 5 points of luck, but they might want to save their luck for later, more, tense situations and stuff, and they're anticipating something, so, some battle or something where they might want to use more luck. So they're just going to risk it. So they do this check and, they failed. And they only failed by, 2 points. If they would have used those 2 points of luck, they would have succeeded. So now they can use their luck as a post-roll edition at double the cost. So now if they want to get those 2 points, it's no longer going to be 2 points of luck. It's going to be 4 points of luck. So there you have it. It's a little post-roll addition of luck to the stat check, the skill check, I should say, at double the cost, though. So at normal use, you just use point for point. You add it in. You call it before you make the skill check, before you roll the dice. But in this case, a little homebrew, a little second part to this, my little GM tip is use it after the fact at double the cost. So there you have it. There's my GM Tips episode about luck, a little two-parter, a couple little ways I use luck. I hope it was helpful. Regardless if you're playing Cyberpunk Red and this directly correlates to your rules and things, hopefully it's helpful. Regardless, like I said, no matter what game system you're playing, you can find some influence based on luck. I know a lot of game systems do have some form of luck, and if not, hopefully it gave you some inspiration to think of some other way to incorporate luck or decision making in post-roll editions into whatever game you are playing. But if you're not playing Cyberpunk Red, go ahead and start playing. It's an amazing game, so check it out. And make sure you check out Cybernation Uncensored. We have lots of casting calls looking for players for all kinds of games we stream, as well as lots of free tips and all kinds of stuff. We have a really active Discord, a Facebook group, Twitter, Instagram. Anywhere you see social media, you can find Cybernation Uncensored, and we would love for you to join the community. All right, thanks so much. I'll see you next time. Take care.